Okay, hey everybody. This is the Keptn Refinement meeting. We have February 14th today. Let's get right into it. We have actually 3 different tickets to discuss today. Let me quickly share my screen here. Yeah, we have 3 different tickets here that we're going to discuss. I also created an estimation poker room for now if we need it, but I think those tickets are mostly not really needed to be estimated in the end. Let's see. Flo, do you want to kick us off right away?
Yeah, sure.
Do you want to share?
Should I share the screen?
I can too, it's fine.
Okay, yeah, so if on today's Valentine's Day you run out of conversational topics, you can reflect on this issue here. Basically, this is about the deployment interval metrics, right? So basically, this is one of the DORA metrics that we provide with the Keptn Lifecycle Toolkit, and also display in our Grafana dashboards. And before we introduced the concept of revisions of Keptn app versions, it was quite straightforward, right? So basically, if you had deployment of a version 2, for example, then the predecessor that you used as a reference for the time between deployments was obviously version 1, right, of the same Keptn app. But now we have the case where we could potentially have multiple revisions of version 1, for example. So we could have version 1, revision 1, version 1, revision 2, and so on. And then the question is which of these revisions to take as a reference for version 2 then. And right now the behavior is that if you want to get the reference for version 1, for version 2, sorry, then the earliest revision of the previous version will be taken as a reference point, and then the deployment interval will basically be the difference between the end time of version 2 and the start time of version 1. And now we have the question whether it should stay this way, or maybe actually the latest revision of the previous version should be taken as a reference. Is that somewhat clear, or are there any questions about that?
Seems that it's clear. I would vote for the latest, so the shortest time interval.
Me too, but I think then we have to take the revision also in consideration. So we then we need to display the revision from which we updated.
I would probably vote for the first revision of each version, because what the interval deployment metrics actually looks like tell us. It tells us how often or what's the interval between deploying version 1 and version 2. So I guess taking the first revision of both things would be because that's the real time. All the revisions are basically just reruns, but the version 1 is already deployed at this case. So at least from my point of view, it should be always revision 1 of the version, which always exists, which makes for us the easiest also. But
yeah, that's also what I initially interpreted this as.
Yeah, the other thing would be like a new interval between revisions, and we don't care about the version. Maybe.
That's revision deployment metric or interval. Yeah. That's something else, but
an extra metric.
Fair point.
I guess this is just time since when the version 1 exists on the cluster until the first time when the version 2 exists on the cluster. And that's always the revision 1 in this case.
And when we go from 2 to 3?
The same. Always take the first revision.
So this would mean that the time is super long from
2 to 3, or what do you mean?
No, it's
It's
on
always
average, right? Is it not?
It's not. Yeah, it's average, but if you deploy version 3, you always get version 3 with revision 1, and then you have another time between version 2 revision 1 and version 3 revision 1.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's the last one, not the first one, as you're saying it now.
It's always from the previous version.
From the previous version, yeah. So the
So the
reference
previous
for version
version.
3 would be the first revision of version 2 in that case, or?
Mm. So it's not always version 1. Oh, okay.
No, so you can actually average the values and get an average interval between versions.
Yeah, makes
Exactly,
sense.
Sounds good.
So basically, how we did it until now, just we add always revision 1, and that's it.
Exactly. I just have one more question about this, because I noticed right now the interval is calculated as a difference between the end time of version 2 and the start time of version 1.
Hmm.
But here I thought maybe it would make more sense to
Deployment
calculate
time.
the difference between the start times in each case. What do you think?
I don't think so, because the end time is the thing which is relevant. If you think of larger applications which might take half an hour to an hour to deploy, or sometimes also 2 hours, then the time of the end time and time when it's finished is relevant.
So we care to know how much time is passed since we want to change.
Then why don't we take also the finish time of the version 1? So always take the finish time.
And also the duration, for this we have a separate metric, right? The average deployment duration.
Okay, maybe we should clarify then what's this metric.
Maybe the
The
metric is
deployment
just
duration itself
out of date.
is the time.
Maybe it's just redundant.
Is the start time from the deployment to the end time of the deployment, I think.
Exactly, yeah.
Then
Maybe
when
this
just-
metric is just not the right thing anymore, since we have revisions now.
I think in this case we need to write it per revision.
But revision is just, okay, we had a flaky test, it couldn't, I don't know.
It's a deployment.
Mm.
I'm not sure anymore now.
Yeah, me neither.
What do you mean, Thomas? That start time and finish time, why don't we always, like, it's an interval between the previous version and the current version, no?
It's the deployment interval. The deployment duration is the time it took to deploy the application.
Exactly. And the interval is how often do I deploy, right?
Exactly.
So that's why I thought it
Yes.
might also make sense to calculate the difference between the start times of each deployment.
No, because you
Because
don't
I
know
start
if the
deployment 1 at time X, and then deployment 2 at time Y, and then the difference between that gives an indication of how often I start a deployment.
I understand this metric as well. It's for me as a user, how often do I deploy, basically, a new version?
Yes, but that's the same if you take take the end time.
Then it's, yeah.
But it's more precise. If you
Then
take
we can take to end times. I'm okay with that.
No, if you have to take the end time of the first time and the start time of the other time, because the time between the
Other way around.
the end time of the previous and the start time of the next one.
Why
For the
this?
interval, yes.
I don't think so. You want to calculate the time until it's finished deploying, right? You don't care when it started deploying. Who cares about that?
Exactly.
You want to know when it's done.
When the version 1 is done, when the version 2 is done, when version 3 is done.
When it was successfully deployed.
Exactly. I would vote for the finished all the time. And for how long does it take for version 1 to, from applying the manifest, so from the start until it's really deployed, so from the finish of V1, that's another metric, that it's deployment duration. So that's two different things.
Taking it to end times is also okay. So
Because if you have the duration and you have this new version, you can still get the other one.
But then maybe if you consider this scenario, you have a deployment that takes on average 20 hours.
Mm.
And that you apply once per second. Then you would have an average deployment duration of
1
20
second.
hours, of course. But the frequency would then also say you deploy every 20 hours, which
Yes, 20 hours in 1
average.
second, which is
so this interval of 1 second would completely get lost, this information.
we need to always compare basically the same state. I agree with Flo. For duration, that's one thing, and interval is another thing.
Yeah, that sounds good. But we have that with end times, we have that, right? You always have the same state.
Mhm.
And you get you get the interval until you reach that same state again.
And in this state, we will always use the revision 1. That was the original question. And therefore, we always have the exact same state. And in between, we can do whatever we want. Some version can have 1,000 reruns. Some version can have only 1 revision. Therefore, we cannot consider it as something in a metric because it's not given.
And it's also not really interesting, right? You want to know when the version, like how often you deploy a version, not how often you deploy. That's another metric. That's what I was saying earlier. Maybe we need another metric for that.
Yeah, we can introduce it. Maybe
So do we agree on this here?
That looks correct to me now, yeah. So the end time of revision 1 and end time, yeah.
I think regarding the deployment frequency and so on, so also including revisions and so on, we could create a histogram or whatever. Because then we could also put in the revisions. Because this is a simple, this is more or less to find out to find out a range over, but not I think the details. But that's only my idea or opinion.
Okay. What about splitting a new metric. Shall we create another ticket for that, or shall we leave it for now?
In this case, when we want the same metric, we would only need another dimension. Then we would only need the revision in the metric we write.
Okay, but there's nothing for this question then here.
Mhm.
So then I will comment this for now.
Potentially for what we should need the metric, considering the multiple revisions, or is it actually valuable for the user or for us?
I think in this case, it's more valuable to find out how many revisions a version has normally.
You can just look at the spec in this case. There's a counter
Oh.
already.
No, I can't if I don't have access to the cluster.
True.
Fair point.
Anything to do? Anything as outcomes? Action items?
I think for that ticket now we have to change the calculation of the interval, because right now it's the duration difference between start time of V2 and end time of V2 and start time of V1. So that needs to be changed.
Okay. This, I guess, right? So we change the timestamps.
Yep.
Okay. Then let's move to the next ticket. Anybody from the community still have feedback on this, or input or anything? Okay, then let's move on. The next ticket, this is a bigger one. We want to split the metric and the life cycle feature, basically of KLT, into two separate operators. Giovanni posted this ticket yesterday. Yeah, so the main reason is basically we want to kind of have those two features usable separately. So you don't necessarily want the KLT full feature set together with the matrix operator. Maybe you just want to have the matrix operator, or just the matrix feature basically, and not use the KLT at all. And since it is kind of standalone and has its own feature set, that can be useful separately. So in order to be able to support that for users, we want to split the two things, the two feature sets, into separate operators. That's the plan. And then, yeah, we can kind of have high granularity on the access privileges that we provide to each of the operators. So we don't need full access to everything on both and stuff like that. And it would be a nice separation of concerns. We already had some discussion on this, but maybe can cause issues during upgrades. Yeah, okay. We already discussed this slightly and kind of found out that maybe upgrading could be an issue. But if we actually bump the CRT versions correctly, that should be fine in the end, and we don't get upgrade issues probably. We already had some other thoughts on here. I didn't actually read your last reply, Flo, but maybe we can kind of talk about this again.
Yeah, so basically my concern, or the roadblock I hit here when I initially looked into this, was that yeah, with regards to the separation of concerns, because right now the Keptn metric controller uses the Keptn evaluation provider which point to Prometheus or Dynatrace, for example. So they define where to get the metrics from. And those Keptn evaluation provider live in the lifecycle API group. And in addition to that, in the Keptn evaluations or Keptn evaluation definitions, we also support referring to these evaluation providers. So in the evaluations, we don't only go through the Keptn metrics, but for example, we can go directly to Prometheus or to Dynatrace. And this leads to a situation where the Keptn evaluation provider of the lifecycle API group is used both, or would be used both by the metrics operator and the current operator. And even though it's only a shared read, still it would, for example, if you want to just use the metrics operator, you would also need to have the custom resources from the normal operator being installed. So it's not really clearly self-contained. And that's why in my last comment, I suggested to introduce a metrics.Keptn metrics provider, which will then also live in the new metrics operator. And in the current operator, we should support only looking at Keptn metrics custom resources during the evaluations, so not in order to not have this provider functionality duplicated.
I think on the long run, we shouldn't have a provider anymore in the Keptn lifecycle toolkit itself, right?
I think the basic question is then when we basically want to move from supporting Dynatrace or Prometheus directly as a Keptn evaluation provider and use only the Keptn metric and Keptn metric provider. The thing is, do we just want to cut it now, or do we want to support it for a few releases and cut it afterwards? That's the thing.
In my opinion, we should cut it as soon as possible.
I would also say so.
And
But I'm
what's
not sure
cut
if I fully got it. So then we would only use the metrics operator to actually fetch metrics.
Mhm.
And then the KLT would only ask the metrics operator
Yes.
for actual values.
Yes.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the CRD containing the, for example, Prometheus endpoint URI would move from lifecycle.Keptn evaluation provider to metrics.Keptn metrics provider or something like that.
So the lifecycle operator will not have any access to the providers or evaluating the queries or whatever. It probably would not have any queries at all there.
Evaluations
Just-
would still exist.
Yeah,
But
evaluation,
they
yes.
would only have one provider.
Yeah, it would be two different providers then.
Exactly. So in the evaluations, you say, I want the Keptn metric X to have the value Y.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So in the Keptn evaluation itself, we would not need a provider anymore because there is only one.
Exactly.
Yeah, so we have a direct and enforced dependency basically towards the metrics operator.
Only
No,
if
no.
you need to use evaluations.
Yes, so we have a
Yeah,
direct
okay.
dependency.
But we still have Prometheus provider for evaluations, no? Or
On the long term, not.
No,
you would
that's all
use only
the
the,
metrics
okay,
operator.
only the
That's the
metrics
thing.
operator.
That's what I meant. It's a hard dependency then basically.
Mhm.
To have any evaluations, you need the other operator.
Or at least the CRDs, yes.
But then what's the point of separating them?
But what
It's a
about the
clear
use?
separation of concerns.
Yep. If we cut it now, what about the users currently using Keptn evaluation provider and Prometheus or Dynatrace directly if they update to the new version. If we do this change and we release it, for example, in 0.6, and if they update, suddenly none of the evaluation made by them will work, because they will need to change their providers, they will need to change their evaluation definitions to point to the Keptn metric, they need to create Keptn metric providers and such things. So it's kind of a big breaking change. So do we want to maybe support it at least one version to give the users kind of a time to move to another?
So I don't understand what forbids us to keep an evaluation provider definition also.
Code
CRD
duplication.
is not installed. The CRD is not installed with the operator, the KRT operator anymore. The KRT operator won't know what it is because it's only installed with the metrics operator, right?
No.
Yes, but we could keep the evaluation definition.
We leave the CRD for the evaluation.
Evaluation provider will be in the life cycle, and the metric provider will live in the metric.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we just
so we
have
duplicate them.
We will have the code applications, but it will work.
And then we can nicely fade it out if we really think that's better to have just everything under metrics.
So so if you have a Prometheus instance, for example, you can either have the metrics operator and request the metric from there through the new metrics provider, or you do it directly with the Keptn metrics provider.
Defining
other one, Keptn evaluation provider.
Yes.
Yeah. So you define Prometheus as an evaluation provider.
Yeah.
Yes, and we will support this for, I don't know, one version, for example, so the users can move to the Keptn metric and Keptn metric provider, and then we just cut it. And if you,
but that means
code duplications.
I mean, how much code duplication? We already have code duplication. Just right now, we call both provider. It's actually less work in my mind. We just.
But then, if we keep the Keptn evaluation providers, then that might still break the Keptn metrics that are.
Because both
deployed,
read metrics.
Because those will rely on the Keptn metric providers then being available there.
Fair.
Why?
But we can rewrite this logic. We didn't release it yet, so we can adapt it directly, like support Keptn metric and Keptn metric provider, or you directly support the evaluation provider and directly go to the Prometheus and Dynatrace. So,
but this will block the release of 0.6 then, if we want to have this from the start.
That will block.
Yeah, the easiest solution is like Flo said, just cut it out. Like a dead limb.
Yeah, I can imagine few users can get quite angry.
If we really must, we can make some customized shape to convert all the custom resources.
Or would it be if we anyway bump the version to V1 Alpha 2 for the metrics and to introduce those with the new metrics operator and have the V1 Alpha 1
still work?
Still in the current operator for one version would, I mean, that's definitely not a very
nice looking
solution, but
under the same API group.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that require
I don't think you can
vice
do
controller? Or
yeah, you would have for the same API 2 controllers.
Yeah.
No.
That's
yeah, the easiest way is to cut it right away.
I think the easiest way would be to communicate it clearly and make a clear cut.
Yeah, make a nice tutorial.
Record a video.
Yes.
But
how to migrate, and everyone is happy.
Yeah, it's an alpha. You're stressing too much.
but do we want to have it as part of 06 or 07?
This matrix is the whole 06. No?
Yes,
But
but
the split will be for 07, or?
No clue.
I think 06 is the Helm chart and 07 is the split, right?
Nope. 07 is Helm chart. That I'm sure of.
yes, we postponed the Helm charts.
So what do we publish?
Helm is 07.
And generic metric server is 06.
But the split, no.
Yeah.
The
Split
split
is
is
not
for
tracked
07.
under anything.
So we just publish it as is, and then we change our mind.
Split is somewhere. Yeah, there it is.
We have quite some changes for 07.
Okay, so when we publish, we just advertise this is super alpha feature. It may change in the next version.
We probably need to tell them that it will change.
It will change.
It
in
will
the next
certainly
version.
change. Don't use it, basically.
We just published it and we already
Yes.
don't like it.
You can look at it, but please don't use it.
Okay. Shall we document anything here in addition to what is already written?
Maybe, did you already wrote it, this fact of removing stuff from one to the other? Yes, right?
We can make kind of an action plan here as well.
Where it says common code. Also, yeah.
So if I understand it correctly, 06 release will happen as it currently is. And all this stuff is possible changes of 07, where we potentially completely cut the support of directly using the evaluation providers.
Okay, so now we have the Keptn evaluation. The Keptn evaluation provider is not moved, right? That's what we said.
No, that will be removed probably.
Exactly.
In favor of having a single provider that points to the matrix operator, right?
Yep.
Okay. Then create new Keptn matrix provider. CRD, which references external O11Y providers. This?
In the matrix operator.
Okay. And then you're muted.
Move the Keptn matrix, but that's quite clear.
Matrix to matrix operator. Request metric values from the generic. Is it a generic endpoint or what was it?
From Keptn matrix CRD, probably.
CR.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
is in this ticket also all the adaptation to pipelines and everything else we will have to do. This is
This
need
is
to add-
more of an epic, I think.
yeah, because we need to adapt the Helm chart generation with this guy being embedded in.
Yeah, that's probably gonna be split into, I don't know, maybe 5 PRs, I would say.
Yes,
At
and
least we have pipelines. We
we
have
need
all
to fix pipelines. We need to migrate tests.
Okay. Add a task list. No, how does the beta task list work? This one.
I mean, probably integration tests will work anyway. We just need to adapt how we install things in all of the pipelines.
if you just install all the manifest, it should work completely the same. That can be our good.
Yeah, you need to modify the pipeline to add that manifest in the list of things and the build and everything else
But the
for
test
the image. But the test itself will work, yes.
Should we maybe also do at least a research ticket to see how we can make the migration a little bit more automated? Because converting the evaluation providers to metrics providers might not be the hardest thing in the world. I mean, we cannot use the conversion webhooks as they come with Cube Builder, but maybe we can automate this.
Probably so.
basically the providers should look pretty the same, except it will be called not evaluation provider, but metric provider, and we'll have different API versions. In other words.
So our own version of a conversion.
Any specific tickets you can think of already? Or nice splits that we can do?
I mean, converting the lifecycle evaluation providers to metrics providers. That should be relatively straightforward. And then maybe in the evaluation definitions where we refer to the evaluation providers, maybe we can automatically generate a Keptn metric with the correct provider referenced here. But here I'm not sure. I didn't
I
think
don't
it
know how
through
to formulate
completely
this
yet.
into a ticket title.
Yeah, this is ginormous.
We still one
Okay,
task.
so this is an epic. This means we cannot estimate it.
Exactly. But one thing is just actually moving, creating a new metrics operator. The other task will be removing the metrics from lifecycle operator.
The wiring. One would be
New
wiring, one
operator,
would be removal.
Exactly.
New Cube Builder project, right?
Okay. Yep.
Mhm. And one would be
removing stuff from the operator.
yeah. Adapt documents is there. Yeah, I think that's it. Adapt examples maybe.
Ah, good point. But not here, rather later, I guess.
Later after the docs.
Yeah, adapt examples.
Maybe
Markets
also
breaking.
I just saw question mark profit.
maybe I know we didn't release the Helm charts yet, but maybe that would be also we need to adapt the lifecycle Helm chart structure.
It's there. Change Helm chart generation.
But in the Helm chart repository. I don't know, maybe.
I mean, oh.
Does that mean we have 2 charts and an umbrella chart already?
Might be.
Why do we have 2 charts? We have everything in one single chart anyway, no?
True.
Where you turn on and off with the feature flag the
yes, makes sense.
Server.
Yeah, it depends how far split off we want to have the metrics operator.
Do we have any common CRD right now? No, right?
That's the thing. We shouldn't have any common CRDs.
If we don't have any common CRD, we could have to.
To separate Helm charts. So if you
Yes.
just want to install the lifecycle operator without the Keptn metric operator, you just apply this chart. If you want also Keptn metric, you apply this chart.
Yeah.
But I would stay with one.
Why?
Because you will want to install the lifecycle toolkit and the matrix operator in parallel.
Mhm.
And it's not a big problem to disable the lifecycle toolkit.
Yeah, so both of them could be hopped in. That you install either only the lifecycle toolkit or only the metrics.
Okay.
I don't know. For me, it's the same. Both
Future
things can work.
flags.
Yeah, probably future flag in a Helm during Helm install is the best way. So
Because otherwise it might make sense to have two charts and one umbrella for the two.
Yeah, that's what I had in mind.
Also, yeah, they could be inside the same.
That's what I had in mind.
Like we had with Common and Keptn.
Yeah.
One of the two. It's the same.
I would
Apart
stay
from
with
the
one
Helm
and,
repo.
then
One is less work for the Helm repo. A bit more of logic for the bit flex.
the Helm repo can be adapted very
Easily.
quickly. It's not a
Okay,
deal.
then when we do it, we rediscuss this.
we can also do a research for this.
I think this epic should have POC at least.
We do have a POC of a separated thing. I don't know if I would do another research. If we want to do this as quickly as possible, not to confuse things.
Yeah, quickly as possible. We cannot do basically much until we do not release 0.6. So until now, until then we're blocked.
Feature branches can always be done.
Yeah, true.
The power of branching.
Okay. But this is already a good start, I would say.
Yeah.
We can refine this further.
We need another
offline
refinement
and
day.
during the weeks. Yeah. Okay. Any last words? Any questions? Anything else?
No, let's get married like this. Press update. You didn't remove profit.
Yeah, on purpose.
Okay.
Why not have a little fun in the tickets as well? Okay, we have one more. And
What
I
is
forgot what this
that?
is.
Oh, this is the
Features that we want to add to the Helm chart.
yeah.
So since we're already generating a Helm chart with very basic customizability options for now, we kind of started a list with different stuff that we want to be able to configure. And this is the list we came up with for now. The question now is basically if anybody wants anything else that we should add right away to the Helm chart. If there's any requests or anything that you want to add to that, just comment it on this issue or add it right away here, or create a new issue, but I guess we'd prefer to add it into this one. Anything that you want to add right now, asking the community mostly? Okay. Then, yeah, you can always come back to this and just add more stuff or create new tickets or ping us on Slack and we can see what we do.
Is Affinity in there?
Affinity is not in there, just node selector. node selector. Isn't that just with
Affinity and
entities?
affinity. Okay.
Yeah, okay. Do they have an example? No. Okay, but that's, yeah. That's basically the same thing then. Okay. Anna actually started working on this already. We are planning to kind of use / repurpose Hermify, if anybody knows the tool.
It's working.
Is it? That's great.
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah. So we're gonna use this tool. It's pretty cool. Basically, you can put in your YAML file and it will generate a Helm chart for you with already provided templating stuff. It's pretty amazing. So here in the examples, this values file is actually generated automatically from the YAML you put in. So that's pretty cool. You can have all these customization options just out of the box by providing the YAML and processing it with Hermify. Okay. Anything else to this ticket? Shall we add something? Any questions? Cool. Then, does anybody have anything else for this meeting? Okay, then I would say we can close the meeting here. I will stop recording.